Greetings. I'm going to be working through the grade 11 practical paper, the November paper of 2020. So this will be a marking guideline for that paper. It was a 3-hour paper that was written at the end of the year out of 150 marks. The data files that were necessary for this paper were the following files: 1 bulletin through to 5 thanks, which you'll see under the instructions section on the second page of the question paper. As always, they will label the files utilized per question. So 1 bulletin, 1 pencil will be utilized for question 1, and 2 opname, 2 survey for question 2 respectively, and so on and so forth. So this will be what you receive. This data folder will be what you receive along with your question paper. And I'll be working through this one as a means of revision for this paper. Right, question 1, the structure will always be the same. They will start you off with a word processing question. And the scenario is obviously in light of the pandemic of 2020, where they were looking specifically at the differences between schools in terms of their ICTs and being able to do online schooling and remote teaching and e-learning. And so they were framing the question paper in terms of that scenario, which was a reality for all of us. So the first document that we're utilizing is the 1 bulletin document, and the first question that they ask us there is to change the character spacing of the title e-learning lessons on the cover page to normal setting. So my assumption there is going to be that the question or that the spacing has been changed to expanded. So I would open up this 1 bulletin document, highlight the text there. Now, anything to do with the font and this character spacing will be in the font grouping on your ribbon. So I'd click on the More Options. I would go to the Advanced setting, which is the second tab menu in the dialog box at the top, and there you can see it is in fact set to expanded. I would click on that drop down in the combo box and set it to normal, click OK, and there I fixed the character spacing. Right, the next thing that they ask me there is to insert a table of contents on page 1. So there's been a space provided there on page 1, but it has to appear as shown below, and obviously we're not including the border. They specify there without the border, so they're merely framing the screenshot there in order to depict what they're looking for in terms of your table of contents. They do ask you to note the fact that the table of contents should only show 2 levels, so level 1 heading and then your level 2 headings respectively. Right, so let's go to the second page. Here's our space provided for the table of contents. This, remember, is based on the heading styles utilized in the documents. So I would put my insertion point where I want my table of contents to go. Click on the References tab. Table of contents is the first one in the ribbon. I'd click on that one, but instead of taking the default one, I'm going to click on Custom Table of Contents, because remember, I don't want to utilize all 3 levels. So my first thing that I'll do is use the spinner to set it to only 2 levels. I'm also not right aligning my page numbers. If I looked at that example in the question paper, if I can bring it up now, I have to resolve this dialog box first. But we'll go back and have a look at it now. There were only 2 levels, and the page numbers weren't right aligned. So I click OK. So here you can see level 1 headings, level 2 headings with the page numbers against those. Let's just double check and see that it's doing, yes, it's exactly right. So there's our level 1 headings with the page numbers and our level 2 headings with the page numbers right next to them. And if you look at my example over here, you'll notice that that is also the case. There's your level 1 and your level 2 headings right there. Brilliant. Let's move on to the next question. So in the next question, you can see they ask us to locate the table of figures on page 1, perform the necessary editing so that when the table of figures is updated, the first entry in the table should be figure 1 internet. So my assumption here is going to be that this picture hasn't been given a caption, and you'll remember that your table of figures is based on the fact that these pictures are given captions. So the first thing that I'd have to do is give it a caption, and then the second thing I'd have to do is update the table of figures, which is why this this question is giving us 2 marks. So first things first is locating the picture. I assume it's this one if I'm not mistaken. Figure 1, internet. Currently says web. Figure 2 is welcome to the future. 3, 4, interactive whiteboard. This is a picture with wrapping, but I don't think that's got anything to do with the internet. Some smart art and a bibliography at the end of the document. So yes, it is in fact this one that we are going to be changing. So I don't need to insert a caption, but I do need to change what it says. So it currently says web, and I'm going to change it to say internet, at which point I can then go back to my table of figures, right click on this, because remember these are fields generated on these captions, update the entire table, and you'll notice that my first figure now says internet as the question has asked. So there were in fact two things that I needed to do there. It was changing the caption, and then the second action was updating the table of figures, which is why that question was worth 2 marks. Right, so for question 1.4, we're locating the text that's been abbreviated in the passage ICT under the heading Introduction. We are going to ensure that this text is not included in an automatic index if such an index is created. So the first thing that we'll have to do here is turn on the Show Hide button, which you do here in the Home menu. So then when you toggle on the Show Hide button here, you'll notice that the index entries are then visible. You'll see it in terms of this script that's next to the ICT entry. So all that you need to do is select that one, and you can remove it utilizing your backspace or delete. That means once an automatic index is then created for this document, ICT will no longer be marked as one of those entries. Right, the next thing we were going to look at is in question 1.5. They ask us to locate the text ER under the heading Some Silver Linings. And we're going to add a footnote to the text that displays as follows without the border. Obviously, we don't want it to have a border, but you notice it says emergency rescue, and instead of a number, it's got the letter A. So that's based, just double check there again, on the text ER under Some Silver Linings. Here's Some Silver Linings, here's ER, they've highlighted it for us. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select that text. In order to insert a footnote, I click on the References tab. I'm not going to simply click on Insert a Footnote, but rather go to the More options under the dialog box. That gives me the option to format this, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to have the ABC obviously as well. I'm going to click Apply. For some other reason my document is saving. I think it's because it's based up in the cloud. Right, once I've applied that change, I can go back into my footnotes, click on that one. I'm using that number format ABC. I click Insert, and it gives me the option at the bottom of the page to then insert the text for that particular footnote. So ER, according to my question paper, what they're looking for there is emergency rescue, which is what that stands for. So I'll type in the text at the bottom. And so then when somebody sees ER and they perhaps don't understand what it means, they can then refer to that footnote at the bottom of the document. Right, the next thing we got in our question paper under 1.6, they asked us to locate the paragraph shaded in green under the heading Adoption and Adaption. And we're going to format the paragraph so that it displays as follows. We're not changing any of the colors. They often actually ask you to keep the colors the way they are because it makes it easier for the markers to mark. So you can see that it's got lines of 4.5 points thick on either side. And they don't want us to use the space bar, but they want the text to be in the position indicated on the side there. And I can see immediately that that will then be an indentation. Specifically a first line indent. Okay, so let's go back to our document and find the text in green. Here it is. So they've already put borders around, but I don't want the top and bottom borders, and I want a first line indent on that text over there. But I don't want at the end here. Okay, so I'll select the text as a start. It's currently centered, but I don't want it to be centered. I need it to be left aligned. There, that's better. And then the quickest way to do it is, if your ruler is activated, is simply to take that top triangle. Careful of where you click. If you grab from the box at the bottom, it's just going to do a left indent. If you grab from that triangle just below on the ruler, it's going to do a hanging indent. So I want to grab the triangle that's pointing down in order to do a first line indentation. So we're doing that without hitting the space bar, which is what they're looking for. Also, I need to change the borders, so I don't want top and bottom borders. That's under design, page borders, and borders. And what I need to do there is remove the top border, and I need to remove the bottom border. And all I want is the left and the right border. I'm beginning to notice that there was some other... Okay, so even when I make that change, you'll notice that it still isn't changing my borders. So it's obviously set to text. So what I'll do is click on page borders, back to borders. Yep, there it is. It's set to text. So I'll set it to paragraph specifically. The line thickness of the borders that they asked for was 4.5 points, and I only want the left and the right borders. And so it looks more like that. So if I go back to my question paper, you can see I've replicated what they have in terms of the first line indentation, the left aligned paragraph, and then the changing of the left and right borders specifically. Okay, they ask us to locate the text citation under the heading MOOCs, which stands for Massive Open Online Course. And we're going to replace this text with the citation from Computers Part of Your Life, grade 12. So if I go down in my document, I can see here's the citation one, and my citation has already, or my source has already been saved under references. I merely have to enter the citation. So I click on references, I click insert citation, that drop down menu underneath, and I'm using specifically Jacobs S, Computers Part of Your Life. And there you can see I've changed that there. I'm just wanting to see if they want a page reference specifically. Yes, they do indeed. They want it to be page 59. So in order to change that, all I need do is select the citation. There's a drop down on the side, say edit citation, and then you can type in the 55 there, and you click OK. Currently, the year is incorrect. It's got it as ZZZ, and that's obviously because the source has been incorrectly inserted. So it's going to require me to actually go into the source and change it to 2018. So I will go to Manage Sources, bring up the Sandra Jacobs one. I'm going to click on that one specifically, say Edit, and then instead of ZZZZ, I'm going to say 2018. I click OK, and it should also automatically update my citation, which I've inserted into my document as well. Right, so that was question 1.7. 1.8, they asked me to change the styles in the document as follows. They said change the paragraph after spacing of the heading 2 style to 6 points. So they automatically, when we're utilizing heading style 2, they want 6 points after spacing on that heading. And then they want us to change all the instances of heading style 3 to the subtitle style. So two-part question. First, I'm changing the after spacing of that heading style. Then I'm selecting all of those styles and changing it to subtitle. And that's for 2 marks. So in order to edit that heading style, the first thing I'm going to do is go to heading style 2, right click on it, you click on modify, you then go down to the bottom here by format, paragraph, and I'm interested in the after spacing. It's currently set to 12 points. I can simply type in the 6 points, or you can use the spinner if you have the time and patience, and you click OK. So now every time heading style 2 is utilized, it will have 6 points before and 6 points after. You'll remember they asked me to find all the instances of heading style 3 and change them to subtitle. And the easiest way to select them all is simply to right click on the style heading 3 in your styles gallery, and you click on select all. There you can see all the instances of heading style 3 have been selected, and you simply make them subtitle, and that's the quickest and easiest way to do that. And those are the 2 marks for that question specifically under the styles of 1.8. Right, 1.9, they asked me to locate the text survey under the heading Internet Connectivity, and they wanted to make it possible for us to control and click on it and jump to the heading, the survey results. So I will go to survey. You can see it has been highlighted for us, which is very sweet of them. I'm going to put a link in that, or a hyperlink. So I'm inserting something into the document. So I click on the insert menu, click on link. This comes up. Now I can either link to a website or a file, but I don't want to do that. I'm still working within this document. So I click on place in this document, and I wanted to go to the appendix survey results, and there it is under my list of items in this document. My bookmarks, if it were a bookmark, would be right at the end, but there have been no bookmarks entered for that. So it's this heading appendix survey results. So you'll see now it's made it blue, underline, and now when I drag my cursor over there, it will say control to click, and it's somewhere in this current document. So if I clicked on that by holding in the control, it takes me automatically to the appendix survey results, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. Great. The next thing that I need to do in this document is locate this paragraph with this image. There are a couple of compatibility issues, and they want us to make a few changes so that the text in the paragraph flows around the image like this, rather than on top of it like I think it currently does. And this was simply a 1-mark question, which had to do with changing the picture format of that one. Right, and there's the picture. That's got to do with the wrapping of the text. If I click on picture format, you can click on your wrapping, and instead of saying you want it to be in front of the text where it's currently overlapping it, you're going to say you want to set the text to tight. In other words, it runs around the actual shape of the picture. If I set it to square, it would square off the text on either side, which is not what I'm looking for either. Now I've done it up in my ribbon, but you'll notice that on the picture one can also click over here and then set it to tight, like the picture indicates. It basically puts the text right around the edges of the picture, and that was worth 1 mark. Right, 1.11, they asked us to locate the text in blue under the heading The Road Ahead. The words column feature and the symbol represented to Wingding's character, and this is what we need to change. So we're going to put it into 3 columns. There's going to be a line between, and we're going to use the Wingding's character code 56 for the bullets, for the items in those lists. So here are my items. I'm going to go to bullets. I click on home. Here are my bullets at the top in the ribbon. I don't like any of these ones. I'm going to define a new bullet, and I'm going to use a symbol. They've already told me where to find it. It's a Wingding, and they say it's Wingding's character code 56. So you can actually type in the bottom here and type in 56. There you can see the little mouse. Click OK. Click OK again. The next thing I need to do is format it into 3 columns with a line between. So that's a layout problem. Click on layout, columns. I'm not going to click on the 3 columns there, because that will only format it into 3 columns, and I specifically want it in 3 columns with a line between. So I go to more column options, 3, line between, and we're done. Sweet. So that's exactly what we want it to look like. According to the question paper, you'll notice it's got those bullets and it's got a line between each of the 3 columns. Right, 1.12 asks us to locate the smart art diagram under the heading The Road Ahead and change the diagram so it shows give, them, and wings, and that was for 2 marks. So let's have a look at that one. Currently it says give wings. The first thing that I do is I select the smart art, and your friend when working on smart art is this little menu hidden away by this side arrow over here, because it uses multi-leveled or bulleted lists to be able to ascertain where the items appear in the list. So I put my insertion point at the end of give, hit the return key, and then I can type in the them part. If I look at the project example, yeah, it's give them wings. The order is correct. The color hasn't been changed. So that is perfect. Right, 1.13 asks us to locate the text box shaded in yellow under the heading The Road Ahead, and to insert the file name of the current document as a field. Now you'll remember that field will not be something that is static. It changes. It's a dynamic entity in your document, so that anytime the document name changes, this will automatically change in your Word document as well. Or the file path changes, it will change automatically based on that as well. So they want to insert the file name of the current document as a field together with the path of the document. Okay, so I'm going to go to this yellow box and I'm going to insert document info, and it's over, goodness, here. Let me just have a look. Right, so then you're going to insert quick parts field because we want it to automatically update. It's usually selected to all, but I'm going to go specifically to document information, at which place I can go file name, click OK. There's the file name, and obviously if this is updated, it will automatically update this field as well. You can see when I click on it, it grays out. That indicates that it's a field. I'm also going to put it in the file path. So once again, go back to quick parts, insert field, and I'm going to ask for the file path to be inserted. I think file path is here, file size, file name. Alright, so for this question, I'm then going to go to quick parts, insert it as a field. It usually is default to all categories. You go specifically to document information. You're going to select the file name, and you're going to ask to add the path to the file name as well. So that will automatically show you the document name along with how to navigate to that. And that's obviously going to be different based on where the document is stored. But if I right click on that field and I click to edit it, it will still show it as being the file name, and that option of adding the file path will also be selected, which is where you get your 2 marks for that question. Right, so 1.14 asks the following question. It asks me to locate the text in red under the heading Important Issues and format the text as a multi-leveled list so that it appears as follows without the border. Don't change any of the colors once again. It makes it easier to mark. And this is a 3-mark question, so there are 3 things that I need to do here. You'll notice that the level 1 is 1 point, 1.1, and then the level 3 is utilizing the alphabet for that one. So here's my multi-leveled list. It's currently doing A, B, C, and 8.1. So there are a couple of things I need to change in order for this to show the same as the question paper is asking for. So I click on the Home tab. Click on the multi-leveled list over here. It's currently set to a numbered list, which is part of the reason we're having a couple of issues with it. So I'm going to click on define a new multi-leveled list. Level 1, I'm not using the ABC demarcation, but rather using the 1, 2, 3 demarcation. Also don't want a square bracket. I want it to have a full stop after the number. Then for question or level 2, I'm going to include level 1, but I'm bringing in, once again, a number, which is doing exactly what I wanted to do. So this one is going to be 1.1. Level 3, we're back to ABC, so that's also correct. I can then click OK. And let's make sure that the numbers are correct according to the example. So there's 1, 1.1, 1.2, AB, and 2. If I look at my question paper, it's 1, 1.1, 1.2, AB, 2, and then 3, and then 3.1 and 3.2, which is what I need to change over here. So this needed to be 3.1. Charts is not 4, but 3.2. All I need to do is put my insertion point in there and click Tab and bring it up to the same level as a level 2 item on that multi-leveled list. Couple of last few things that I need to do to this document. The first was inserting the automatic index under the index tab, and that the index had to be formatted as follows. It was left aligned, had a tab leader, and the numbers of the page where those index items appear. So let's start off by inserting the index. I put my insertion point in the front there, click on the references tab, and I say insert index, and here's where we get to format it. I'm going to right align the page numbers much like that. And I don't know that we were using more than one level. Let me just, obviously I can't carry on without resolving that dialog box. These are all, yeah, that's perfect. So there were no multi-leveled, it was simply one level. Okay, so once again, insert index, right align the page numbers, columns, we're doing it in one column. And let's have a look, it's exactly right. There it goes from 4G through to Wiki, which is exactly the same as my question paper asks for. Change the reference style of the bibliography to Harvard Anglia. That's a simple fix. So I'll go to references, currently it's APA. I'm going to say set it to Harvard. There it is. And it automatically updates my bibliography. Right, that brings us to question 1.17, where we locate the appendix, which is contained on the last 2 pages of the document and which consists of a table under the heading Appendix Survey Results. We're going to edit the table as follows, ensure that if the table spans more than one page, that the headings are automatically replicated on the second page as well as the first, and then we're adding a formula to the bottom right of that cell. So if I open this up, here you can see it does indeed go over onto 2 pages. So all I need to do is put my insertion point anywhere in the table, and under my table tools, I'm going to click on that option in my ribbon that says repeat header rows. So here's page 1, appendix survey results, but if I go across to the next page, you'll see it still tells me that type of connection, and it's repeated those header rows over there in the document. The other thing I need to do is work out the average data used per month. So if you look at this last column, it shows me the data used per month, so simply need to put in a function or formula that will give me the average amount. I'm going to click in this cell, click on formula. Instead of summing above, I'm going to specifically use an average of the items above. So I put my insertion point in there. I can type that and type an average. So it will do an average of all the items above. Click OK. You can see the average data usage is then 131 gigs for that one. Good. The next thing I need to look at is inserting the image one pencil only in the header of the appendix page. This image must not appear on any of the other pages in the document. And they give you a good tip there. If please note that the necessary section break has already been inserted. So all I need to do is on the appendix section, you'll notice there's already been a section break that I can see as soon as I switched on my show hide button. I double click into the header. The first thing that I need to do is basically break the link to the previous section. It then allows me to format this header differently to the rest of the document. I'm going to go and put in the picture, which is already saved to file. I can then navigate to that, and they want that one pencil to be inserted in there. And you'll notice that that only happens on my last part of the document where my appendix is and nowhere else. So that's exactly what I needed to do there. That was worth 2 marks, breaking the link and then inserting the image. They said to change the automatic page numbers in the footer of the last 2 pages to A and B without the quote marks. Okay. They don't want to change any of the other page numbers in the document. Also a simple fix. I'll go to the page on that one. Going to once again break the link to the previous, and I will go page number, bottom of page, but I'm going to format the page number. Sorry, I want to utilize, instead of 1 to 3, ABC. Start at A, click OK, and so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the previous part of the document, but in this last bit it will go A and B, and that's because I once again broke the link and I went to page numbers, format page numbers, started from the beginning again and used the page format ABC for that one. And that was also once again worth those 2 marks. The last thing that I need to do for this question 1 is replace all the instances of the word where they use pupils. They want the word learners in uppercase to be utilized instead. Okay, that's a simple find and replace in the document. double click to get out of the header and footer. I will go to my home tab, move to the end, and replace. It brings this up. I'm going to find all the instances of pupils. I'm replacing it with the word learners. And under the More option, I'm going to click on Font and say that I specifically want it to be all caps. So it understands that learners is going to be all in capital letters. Replace all, should make 15 replacements. And then we can go do a find just to make sure it's doing what it ought to. So I'm going to find the word learners. There you can see every time the word learners occurs, it's in uppercase in my document instead of pupils. Great. And that concludes question 1. Right, so for question 2, we're going to be looking at the spreadsheet 2 survey, which is saved in our examination data. And when working in these questions, specifically Excel, please do be careful about which of the spreadsheets within the workbook you're working in at the bottom. So let's have a look at how one might do this one. So 2.1 asks us to work specifically in the chart worksheet. They say we need to change the chart so that it appears as shown below. And the really nice thing about this question is that they've actually included that on your spreadsheet as well. They then detail in a number of bullets on page 7 as to what you need to do for those changes to be made. They want you to add the text platform as a vertical axis title. They want us to remove the grid lines, fill the chart area with a solid white color instead of the texture fill that they've utilized there, and then add data labels, but specifically in the position shown in the example. So if you look at the example, you'll notice that those data labels are not outside end, but rather inside, which is not a default action, so one would have to know where to go in order to make that change. Right, start with the chart area. You just simply select it once with a single click. Click Format, Shape Fill, and White. That's your first change that needs to be made. The second one is getting rid of your grid lines. So let's go to the plus sign. There by grid lines, you simply deselect that tick box. We need to give it a y-axis label, so we go to axis titles. We've only got a primary horizontal at the moment, so we want a primary vertical as well. Triple click in the box in order to select all the text, and we type in platform to change the y-axis label. We need data labels as well. We click on the plus sign. I go to data labels, but I'm not just going to select the tick box. I'm going to go to the More option and specify that I want it on the inside end. And I think just like that, we have managed to master question 2.1. Right, and that was worth 5 marks. The second mark that you see there's, because obviously there are only 4 bullets, but the last bullet is actually worth 2 marks, because you would have gotten 1 mark for adding the data labels, but a second mark for ensuring that they're in the inside end. Right, 2.2 wants us to insert a formula into D18 to calculate the total amount of data used in the month by all schools in terabytes. So they say, please note the information you need will be in column H in the survey worksheet, and the information is in gigabytes. So it's testing a little bit of theory as well. They say here there are 1,024 gigabytes in 1 terabyte. So we need to go and have a look at survey. Here's the data we're using in column H with all the information that we're going to need to add up, because we want the total amount in but then it's going to be in gigabytes, and so we'll then have to change it into terabytes. So here's goes. We start off by saying equals sum. So this is actually testing not that you know how to use the sum function, which we're all fine with, but using the sum function on data in another worksheet. So as soon as I click on that, you're going to see it adds survey exclamation mark saying, hey, you're grabbing the sum from another worksheet. And then I'm using this cell range. We do not need to fix our absolute cell references range because we're not copying this formula anyway. Right, I use the close bracket and I can hit the return key. There I have an answer, but obviously this is now an answer that's in gigabytes, and I need to make this terabytes. And they tell me there's 1,024 gigabytes in each terabyte. So I will divide this answer by 1024 in order to get my answer in terabytes. And that will be the 3 marks that I need for that question. Right, the next thing I'm doing in survey, in the survey question, the first step is always to format the text. So they give you a couple of marks there, virtually for free, I think. Question 4, or also question 2.3.1, 4 marks. They want us to wrap the text in cell A2. They want us to put a line, or they want us to merge cell A2, center and align the text, in cell A2 vertically. So this needs to be vertically centered. We need a border between those two cells, and we need to change the orientation of the text in B2. Right, quick fix. Select that one. Wrap the text for a start. Vertically align. That's that one there. Text direction for this one. Wrap text. Not wrap text, sorry. Text direction. That's that one over there. Rotate up, and we're good. Then, depending on which cell you selected, if you select that one, you're going to put a right border on. If you select that one, you're putting a left border. So I'm in that cell at the moment. So give it a left border. And that should be all for my marks that I need there. Right, they say ensure that any values in column H that are 500 or more, so it's including 500, that they are displayed in a red font color automatically. So I'm looking at the data usage here specifically, and I want to quickly and easily find or format all those values that are 500 or more. It's based on a specific condition, so I'm using conditional formatting here. You can use the highlight, go to more rules. I'm going to format cells that are greater than or equal to the value of 500. How am I going to format them? That's in this next section. I say format. I'm going to change the font, and according to the question, they want the font to be red automatically if it's 500 or more. Click OK, and you'll see that all my values that are 500 or more will automatically be formatted in a red font. Right, I unfortunately close this now. Let's have a look. Okay, so that's 2.3.2. 2.4, we need to insert a function into cell I4 that will display the text high if the value in cell H4 is 500 or more. Okay, so it's going to say high if this value is 500 or more. Listen to the language, if. So I'm using an if statement here. If this value is greater than or equal to the value of 500, I want it to say high. But what do I do if it says nothing? Then I don't want it to show anything. So after the false value, I'll just say quotation mark with nothing between. In other words, it will display nothing if it's not greater than or equal to 500. And yeah, this one is 500, so it will display that as high. All right. If the value in cell H4 is less, it must display nothing. We did that. 2.5, indications of which e-learning platforms are used by the school are stored in column C through to G. Great. The number of schools surveyed is stored in cell L2. That's there. Good. We want to insert a function to L4 to calculate the percentage of schools that use Google Classroom. So I know that these are the ones that use Google Classroom, and it's got a Y in there. So you can either do a count if Y or just do a count A, because all the other cells are empty. So I'll start off by doing that. I'll say equals count A, open brackets, and say all my Google Classroom schools. Go and count them for me quickly. And that's that answer. So that tells you how many there are. But I know that there were 59 schools surveyed. So I would take that count A and then I would divide it by the value of how many schools were surveyed. And then I need to take this cell and format it as a percentage. And there you can see that 25% of the school utilize, or 25% of those surveyed utilize Google Classroom. Right, the number of schools that have an internet connection. So this is the next question, is 2.6. They say the different schools, what type of internet connection they use, fiber, ADSL, whatever, is stored in column A, but a hash symbol has been utilized if a school does not have any of these three types. So I want to insert a function in cell L7 to determine the number of schools that have one of these three connections. I'm not going to count them if they are fiber, ADSL, and 4G. I'm rather just going to count the anomaly, which is the people that don't have, and then subtract it from the total number of schools surveyed. So I'll start off by saying equals count if, open brackets, the cell range I'm interested in is just this one. So yeah, technically you could have done a count ifs and then done multiple criteria where you go and say, go count it if it's ADSL and fiber and 4G, but it's much easier just counting that one thing, how many people don't have, and then taking that value up here and subtracting the number of people that don't have, and then you can see the number of schools that do in fact have, which is 36. Right, the next one, we are in fact looking at the number of people that are utilizing those specific connection types. They want us to put a function into L11, M11, and N11. They want us to put a function that we can copy automatically without making any changes to the formula, that will automatically add up the number of people that use fiber, the number of people that use ADSL, and the number of people that use 4G. So let's see what they've put in here already. They said count if this one, correct cell range, good, but that it says fiber. Okay, so quick fix to this one. Instead of saying go and use that word fiber to go and count, let's say rather go look at that cell which has the word fiber in it. Then all I need to do is select the cell range here, fix it, so that when I move this or autofill this formula, my range doesn't change. But the one thing that will change is my criteria, which is currently L10. So it will become M10 and N10 respectively as I click and drag this one to the side. So one quick change, absolute cell referencing my range, or absolute range referencing, and instead of using a specific thing saying fiber, using a cell reference instead, because now when I click one over, you can use the next cell reference over and the next one respectively. Okay, this one is a simple formula that we're all familiar with. Let's quickly see what the question has, but I can almost guarantee what they're going to ask there. They say insert, or they're even giving it to you. They say insert a large function into cell L15 to calculate the second highest amount of data used by a school in a month. Ooh, bit of a little curveball they're throwing at you. They say use a function to round the result to a whole number, in other words with no decimal places. So for this one, you couldn't simply, like at the top here, utilize the remove or increase decimal space feature in Excel. You actually have to use a function to take those decimals away. Okay, so let's start off by getting the large one. So I want to find out who's the second largest user of data. My data use, once again, is in the cell range over here. So I'd simply select that. And my K value will be which position are you looking for. I'm not looking for my highest, I'm looking for my second highest. So I put in a 2 there, hit the return key, and here you can see the second largest value. But they said we don't want any decimal places, we want to round it to a whole number. So I take this whole function at the top here, and I'll put a round function around it. Go right to the end. I'm rounding it to the nearest whole number, so I use a 0 there to round it off. There you can see it comes to 774. Right, question 2.9, they say insert a SUMIF function into cell L18, in other words this cell over here, to calculate the total amount of data in gigabytes used by the school with a fiber connection. So I'm only counting peeps that are using fiber. So I'll go here and say equals SUMIF, open brackets. It's always your criteria range first. So I say go look at this range. In this range, tell me if they're using fiber. And yes, you can click on a cell as well. You don't have to type it as I have done here. Once you've found the people that have using fiber, please tell me how much they're using in a calendar month. And I close brackets there, and there you can see the total amount of data in gigabytes used specifically by the schools who are utilizing fiber. Okay, so for this next question, it's a fairly simple one. They say the data shows that if the school uses a platform, then the platform is usually WhatsApp, if they only use one. So they want us to put a function into L22 that automatically determines how many schools use only WhatsApp. So if there's a 1 here, that 1 means it's WhatsApp. So I'm only going to count them if there's a 1 there. So I say count if my range here. And in that range, I'm only interested in the people that use one platform. And those will be my WhatsApp schools. So that was a simple one for 2.10. Right, 2.11 has us working in the connection types worksheet. So let's quickly click over to there. And they ask us to ensure that row 1 will always remain visible if the user scrolls down through the rest of the worksheet. So they don't want it to disappear when I do this, in other words. That's in your View tab. There's one of 2 ways you can do it. Fortunately, there is only one row that they want to do that. So I'm going to use the freeze panes and say, please just freeze the top row. If it was multiple panes, then I would put my insertion point just below where I want it to freeze, and I would say freeze panes, and it will freeze anything above. Right, so that was the first step. They say ensure that if the worksheet is printed, the column headings in row 1 will repeat on each printed page. And so for this one, I'm going to go to my page setup and the page layout, and I'm going to go to sheet options. At the moment, my rows to repeat at top have not been selected. I would then select the rows that I'm interested in, and then that would ensure that those rows are then repeated if this goes over onto multiple pages. I can click OK. They want us to center this on the page, so that's done as well in your options there. Let's go back there, sorry, and they want us to page setup. So we look in our margins tool and we're going to center it horizontally is what they've asked for there. Okay, our final question asks us to use a subtotal function to determine the total number of learners that use each internet connection type: 4G, ADSL, and fiber. So these are the number of learners and that utilize them in the various schools. So school 52, school 11. So I want to automatically total up all of them according to the different connection types that they've done. They've fortunately for us already sorted it according to the connection type. So if they hadn't done that, it would have required you to first run a sort on the data, but fortunately they've already done that. So all that I need to do now is select this data here. I can then click on the data tab and I go to the subtotal function, and I'm asking them to run a subtotal at each change in connection type. I'm going to ask them to add up, do a sum of the number of learners in that cell range. I'm not interested in the school or internet types. Click OK, and there you can see it automatically adds up the number of users that are utilizing 4G, ADSL, fiber, and then it obviously does a grand total at the end. And that concludes question 2 for us. Right, for question 3 we move into the access question, which is based in the 3admin database. Also a very easy part of the paper. So he has 3admin, and usually the first section of the questions is all about changing the properties in the design field of the table in order to ensure that we have valid data that is captured. So the first one here is setting a primary key on the ID field, and that's, as we remember last time, to ensure that we don't have duplication of records inputted into the database. So we're doing this based on the evaluation table, and remember they're always enclosed to ensure that we don't change the one that the rest of the objects in the database are based on. So there's the first one, evaluation. I've toggled back to design view. ID field is going to become my primary key. So while I'm selected on that field, all that I do is select the primary key at the top. It's now set as my primary key. The next thing that we need to do is change a property of the learner field so that the user cannot leave this field blank. In other words, it has to be done, and that, as we know from before, is setting it as a required field. So there's learner. We go down here to required. At the moment it says no, and I'm going to toggle that to yes. So that was the second part of this question, 3.1.2. I think 3.1 in total runs up to about 11 marks. So they're basically gifting you 11 marks to ensure that valid data is inputted into your Access database. And as we know, Access database usually counts about a third of your practical paper. Right, 3.1.3, they say edit the combo box of the area field so that when the user opens the combo box, the items will be displayed as follows. So there's Systech, Networks, Office, Website, and Integrations. So it could be an order problem, so I'm just going to side by side these ones quickly. So this is based on the combo box of the area field. So I click on area, and then as you know, we toggle to the lookout part of this, and we are going to look at what the order of this list is. So at the moment it is Networks, Systech, Website, and Integration. So Office is not there. Website and Integration are in the correct order. Systech hasn't been added, so all that I need to do is go and type in Office, and I need to go to the beginning, and using a semicolon to separate my items in my value list, I will type in Systech. It's the last one. Any changes that I make between the design view and database will require me to save it, and then when I toggle to the other one, we can actually go and check and see that that's doing it the way it should. Systech, first one, Networks, second, Office, Website, and Integration. So it's exactly the way it ought to be. Okay. They then say change a property of the test date field so that a date picker control will be displayed. Click on the test date field, click back on general. Right at the bottom it says show date picker, and it's set to never, and then you'll just set that and say show date picker for dates. And obviously because it's a date and time field, it will then allow you to select from a date picker which date that test date occurred on. Then they said to change the property of the score field so that if the user enters a value of 6 in this field, the following message will be displayed. A value must be from 1 to 5. Okay, so that's the rule. And there are a number of ways of doing this. You can say 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. It takes really long to do it that way. Or you can write greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 5. But obviously the one I prefer is using the word between 1 and 5, and that's really the easiest. So basically what that will do is, obviously a change has been made, but now if I go to the field that I've just edited, which is the score field, and I try to put in 0, it won't take it. If I take a score of 6, it won't take it. Sorry, that was 60. 6 won't take it. And if I put in a value of 5, there you go. So that does in fact work. Just going to delete this. Obviously it's waiting for me to add something to the learner field because I set it as a required field. Alright. Once I've done that, it does actually allow me to click off it, and I can go back and delete that field. Right, let's go back to the design view and see if we can change the next one. So that validation rule there was worth 3 marks. Between 1 and 5, 3 marks, using for the AND function, or the AND as well in that argument. Right, we need to go and put an input mask, and this is also worth 3 marks, that will ensure that a user, when they enter a code in the code field, this one over here, that it automatically makes the first letter uppercase, that it follows with 2 lowercase letters, and then 1 compulsory digit followed by 1 optional digit. So the last digit that we're utilizing is going to be optional. So the first one, if I go down to the bottom here, let me zoom in for you. The first one that we have here is a greater than, which will force that first character to be uppercase. I then go and I use the lowercase to force those next two lowercase. I'm then going to put in an optional digit. An optional will, compulsory digit first. Compulsory digit will be a 0, and then an optional will be a 9. And if I zoom out again, that is going to be my code. And that also was worth 3 marks. An uppercase letter, lowercase, double digit, and then followed by a compulsory letter, a compulsory digit, optional digit. Right, we can save and close and navigate to our first query that we're going to modify. So query 3.2, this is what it looks like at present. There are a couple of things that they want us to do to it. They said, please add only the fields cell phone number, category, and years experienced. At the moment, support is there. So I want cell phone number, I want category, and I want years experienced. These are the only ones they want us to add. Not to say that we need to remove the supporters one. They then go on to ask that they want only the records for the teachers. Now, the first thing that I like to do is run the query to see how it displays. So it wouldn't work if I wrote teachers with S on the plural form, because obviously all these ones in this category have been added as teacher in the singular form. So when I go to category here and I put in the criteria, which is to bring back the teacher, I need to do just that without the S. And there you can see it's bringing back my teachers. I can now toggle back to design view. So the query must show only the records of the teachers who have more than 3 years of experience. Okay, not including. So basically I'd use a greater than sign. And first let's go and see what the years experience looks like. Yeah, just a number in that field. So I'd use a greater than sign and 3. 2 criteria. And you can see all of these ones have 4 up to 14 years of experience. Good. You could have also said greater than or equal to 4. It would have been the same as saying greater than 3. Right, I'm happy with that. I can close it. Obviously, because I've made changes, it's going to say, am I sure? Yes, I want to save my changes. I can now navigate to query 3.3. which asked me to do the following. They said display only those records of supporters where the following conditions are met. The records must include only parents and teachers category. So currently it's showing teachers, but they also want parents. So I say teachers. And for this one I'm going to use or. And remember, parent was singular in the last query, so I say parent or teacher. There they all are. Brilliant. What else do they want from me? The parent or teacher must be able to work on weekend. So the weekend field must be true or yes. So the boxes are ticked for all the times that those parents or teachers are available on the weekend. So all that I need to do is go into this last field, and my criteria there is going to be either true or yes. And it will bring back all the ticked fields then. Yeah, and that's that for question 3.3 with that query. So I can save that and close it. We're now going to navigate to the form 3.4. In form 3.4, they want the background color of the header to be white. Or it must look the same as the rest of the form, so obviously it needs to be white. So I'm going to go to design view, right click at the top there, or select at the top, sorry. A couple of options available to me. I can see them here at the top. It's either arrange, format, or form design. I'm going to go to format, go to the background color, theme colors that. Background full color, there we go. I right click in this field or that area of the form, and I can make it white, and there you see it matches the rest of the form. Right, the next thing that I need to do is insert the image 3 handshake into the form header. Once again, click in that area of the database, go to a background image because we're going to insert that image in there. You click browse. We navigate to where it's saved on the desktop, and they want this handshake image to be no. Okay, so there's a problem. This is putting it into the background of the form. If I want it specifically in this area of the form, I'm going to have to go insert image under form design. And there I draw the box, and there you can see it's just in my form header. So this one that I used here with background image would make it the background image of the entire form. Form design, however, will allow you to put that picture in whichever section of the field you're currently working, which is what I am actually looking for. They then said change the label in the form header so that the border has a shadow effect as follows. So they want it to look like this key personnel. Select it, right click, you go to special effects at the bottom, your shadow effects, that one, and it replicates the same as what they ask for in the question paper. They then ask me to format the year's experience field so that it appears centered when viewed in form view. So currently if I go to form view and I look at year's experience, you can see it's right aligned there. And so what I want to do is ensure that that is centered. Once again, in design view, I can select that field, year's experience. I can go to format. Currently you see it right aligned at the top there. I simply make it centered. And so now when I toggle back to form view, you'll see it fills in or it aligns to the center of that field. They say the amount of sponsorship fields is currently displaying as hashtags, and we know from Excel when it does that, it usually means that the field is not big enough in order to display it. So let's resize it quickly and see how that works, right? So the sponsorship amount needs to be slightly bigger. Back to design view, we can probably make it ever so slightly smaller. And I want to line it up with the rest of my fields here. The next thing that they ask me is to make it display with the decimal values. So currently when I go back to form view, you can see it only shows me the 125 Rand, but they want to show the 125 Rand with the decimal and what would be cents if it had cents after it, which it doesn't, but they say they want the sponsorship amount to display with cents as well. So you select that field, you right click, and you will bring up the properties, which was already active there, but I'll just do it again. Right click on that field or that text box, bring up properties. Under format, you're going to see the decimal places that currently is shown as 0, and so what you're just going to do there is change that to a 2, and then what it will do is allow you to when you in form view, it will allow you to then see the decimal values after that. And I think that brings us to the close of question 3.4, which was changing, we had to insert our name as appropriate control in the form footer. Okay, let's quickly go and do that. Go to design view. Here's the form footer. Do not use the text box. Text box is used for putting in field names and calculations. I'm just going to use a label. And all that I need to do is draw that in and put my name in it. And so I'm going to grab that field, make it a smidge smaller, toggle back to form view. You're going to notice my name's down at the bottom there then, and we can save and close. Right, hurtling down to the end of question 3. A few more things we need to do. The first thing that they ask us to do is to create a report called sponsorships, and we need to base it on the sponsorships query. Remember, a report can be generated based on a table or a query in your database. So they want it to be based on that query. So I'm going to click on the Create tab at the top. I'm going to say Create Form or Report, with Report Wizard. This dialog box comes up, and I'm going to specify the query sponsorships. They say to display all the fields in that query, so I just move them all across and say Next. They want me to group it according to the category field, so that first one, and I click to the side, and then they want me to, in the next sorting section, to sort it according to the supporter field in ascending order. So I click on supporter, and I make sure that that says ascending rather than descending. You can then say Next. They say save and close the sponsorships report. So its name is going to be sponsorships. They don't tell me to change the layout or the orientation. I think it's only 4 fields across anyway, so it needn't be landscape. The report needs to be called sponsorships. There we go. And we can close the print preview if we're happy with the way it looks. And that was worth 3 marks. Right. For the final section, it's modifying the report 3.6 in design view. So I open this one up, toggle to design view. And for this one, they want us to show the highest sponsorship amount in the report. Okay, and they want this to be displayed in the report footer. So make the report footer a smidge bigger. Here I am going to use the text box for my calculation, and I can tell it what it's actually going to mean in the label. I can say this is the highest sponsored amount. I can resize my other text box that's next to the label, and I can type in my calculation. And we know from Excel, if we want the highest of a particular value, we will type max, open round brackets for the calculation. Then the field name that this is based on is sponsorship. So I open square brackets, type sponsorship, close square brackets, and close round brackets. So now when I toggle back to report view and I go down to the report footer, the high sponsored amount is there for 750, but obviously that doesn't say anything. We don't know if it's rand, cents, or dollars. Go back to design view. Can now make my field a smidge smaller because it doesn't need to be that big just to show the 750 rand. I select that field, right click, sorry, that text box, click on report, and under data, no, under format, sorry, I'm going to format it as currency. Mine's defaulting to dollars because obviously my regional settings have been set as such, but you would ensure that yours is then Rand South Africa. I'm not going to go to the extent of changing that now. Okay, save and close, and that brings us to the close of the 3-admin database. Second to final question is question 4, which will be HTML. This will always be done with your Notepad++ editor, and as I've mentioned before, I will always open up one in my browser, much like this, and I will open up a second one using my Notepad++. The reason I do this is because I will side by side the two, much like I've been doing with the question paper and the various questions I've been working on, just to see where the changes are made when I've saved them in my HTML editor and how they reflect then in my browser. They will also very sweetly put in the comments to show you where about in the HTML script you're putting in your tag or modifying an attribute on a tag in order for it to reflect in your web page. Right, 4.1 asks the following question. They give me a final product as to what it's going to look like. What do you see? And got a dot to dot there, bridging the gap. A couple of things that we need to change there for the font to display is that anchor tag for you to click to see the full picture. This is still an ordered list, but it's an ordered list with A, B, C, D instead of a 1, 2, 3. There's a horizontal rule at the bottom. Okay, so I've got a couple of ideas as to where we're going with this. So let's get stuck into it. First things first, in 4.1, they say add HTML code so that all the text on the web page will be displayed in Calibri. Now, they've already got the font tag in there for me. You can see there's the open Tupperware box and closed Tupperware box at the bottom. I just need to go to change the attribute. We don't talk about font types in HTML, but we do talk about font face. And so I say face equals, type in quotation marks, Calibri, close quotation marks. Save your change in your HTML editor and refresh those changes, and you'll notice it's changed all the font in that web page to Calibri. That was 1 mark. They then say locate the text, what do you see, near the top of the page, this bit over here. and they want us to format it as follows. There are two things we need to do to it, so it's 2 marks. Change the font color of the text to green, so that's going to be my first step. When we change font color in HTML, we spell it without the U. We say color equals, open quotation mark, green, but that's not the only attribute I'm going to be changing. They also want me to change to the largest heading style. Okay, so that's all I'm changing in this one, so I'm going to add that attribute, save it, and refresh it. There you can see what you see is now being in green, but they also want to make it the biggest style heading, and so for that I'm going to put an H1 tag in there. If I go to the end and close that tag again, and there you can see I've now made it the largest heading size. Refresh it, and then you can see what you see is now big. Cool. 4.3 needs me to change the image. Currently the image isn't displayed. All that you see, there's the alt tag, which is join the dots. So there's something about this picture that's not working the way it ought to. I'm just going to open up my File Explorer quickly and have a look here, and you can see my dots picture is not a JPEG. It is in fact a PNG, portable network graphics. So what I need to do is go here in my script and change the JPEG to PNG. If I save it and refresh it, yep, there's my picture. They also want me to change the height of the picture so that it is 200. So I can go there and add an additional attribute. Go in there and say height equals 200. If I can type in equals, there we go, 200, and close quotation marks, and save and refresh it. There you can see it's made a smidge smaller. Locate the paragraph that starts with bridging the gap. That's that one over there. And they want us to do the following. They say add HTML code so that the paragraph is displayed as shown below without the border. So only the left side of the paragraph is shown. So they would like that. So they would like that to be on a new line. If you look at the example, you can see bridging the gap is at the top with the rest below, but it's not a new paragraph. It doesn't have a new space there, so that's a break tag. And they also want bridging the gap to be in bold. Okay, so let's get stuck into that. First I'm going to go and put in my break tag. Let's see if that works. Save and refresh. So you can see it's now pushed it onto the next line. And then I'm also going to go and put in a bold tag, open B, and box opened, box closed. There's the closing B tag for my bold. You could have also used EMP for emphasize, or I might be mistaken. I think that could actually italicize it. I'm interested. I'm going to quickly go and check EMP for emphasize. Emphasize. Let's see what that does. I think it could. Yeah. No. Doesn't seem to be doing much to it. Okay, but it is in fact a bold tag, so let's just utilize that quickly. Save it and refresh. There we go. Bold. They want us to change the list so it shows it as ABCD, and under, oh no, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. 4.5 asks me to do the following. They say locate the text, click here to see the full picture, and they want it to link to that picture. So first things first is this anchor tag needs to close around the text, so I would grab that and move it to the end of this text there. So you'll notice now, if I refresh that, okay, it's not going to anchor to anything because I haven't put my href yet. Let's see if it works now. Save. Refresh. There you can see the link has now become active. So click here to see the full picture. When I click on it, it will then show you the finished picture. It's pretty neat. So that's working all right. That was 2 marks. So basically it was moving the anchor tag to the bottom, and it was also putting in the correct attribute, which was the hyperlink reference, href, which took you to the 4picture.jpg. The next thing I need to change is my list. So they don't want it to be an unordered list, in other words, a bulleted list, but rather an ordered list. So first things first is I go and change that UL to an OL, which makes it an ordered list. And the closing tag also needs to be changed to OL. Now when I refresh it, you'll notice it goes 1 to 3. The next problem is you'll notice knowledge and skills doesn't reflect as number 4, and that's because I closed the tag, so I need to open the tag before LI or list item and close list item for knowledge and skills. So now when I refresh it, you'll see now there's number 4. LI stands for list item. So you'll start your list saying what kind of list it is, whether it's an ordered list or unordered list, and then you'll list all the things in your list as list items, LIs. And the problem with this one was it was a closing LI, so it didn't even open the tag to start off with. The next thing that I need to do is change it so that it's no longer a numbered list, but a list that has it as ABC. So what I'll do there is just say type equals, open quotation marks, and give an example of what I want it to look like. If I save it now and refresh it in my browser, you'll see that it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4 to ABC. Right, 4.7 is changing my horizontal rule that I have there. They say we need to find that horizontal rule and we need to change the HTML code so that the line is aligned against the left side of the page. So I'm going to put in a line there, equals left as an attribute. I'm going to save it and refresh it. You'll see it's now jumped to the left side of the page, but apart from that, they want the line must always extend over half the page. So the width shouldn't be 50 points, it should be 50%. So now when I save and refresh this, you'll see it now goes halfway across the page. Right, the last part of this question, 4.8, requires me to find this last bit of text here and ensure that this text is not displayed, but we're not allowed to change the color and we're not allowed to delete it. This is simply changing it into a comment. And we do that by saying open tag, exclamation mark, dash dash, go to the end, dash dash, close. And that suddenly makes that part of the web page a comment, and it will not display to anyone in the web page, but would rather display to anyone editing the HTML script. Question 5 has us making a couple of changes to a Word document. Utilizing form fields is usually a feature that they get you to do in question 5. Also running a mail merge usually comes part and parcel with question 5 question as well. And then object linking and embedding, which is what I think they've included in this question as well. Right, for this document, or for this question, we're going to be opening up the 5 thanks document. And so I open up my 5 thanks. I can already see there's elements of the mail merge that we're going to bring in a bit. Let's start off with what they ask us to do and not get ahead of ourselves though. They ask me to locate the paragraph in blue under the text Dear Supporter. That's this one over here. There seems to be a problem with it. They would like the line spacing of this paragraph so that it's the same as the line spacing of the paragraph in red below it. Well, first things first is select the one below, go to your paragraphing options and check what the line spacing is set at. There I can see it's multiple at 1.08. So I'm going to do exactly the same for that one there. Select it, go to more paragraphing options, multiple. There it is currently at 0.8, so I will make that 1 point, was it 1.08 or 1.8? I can't remember now. No, it's got to be 1.08. Right. Let's see if that fixes it. Yeah, and it looks the same as the red paragraph as well. That was the first thing that they wanted us to do there for 1 mark. They then locate the text chart goes here, highlighted in yellow on the first page. They say replace this text with a chart from the 5 chart spreadsheet, but the chart must be pasted in such a way that any future changes to the chart will automatically appear in the Word document. So I'm going to input it over here. So let's go and find it first. Here's the 5 chart from the Excel spreadsheet. I only want this chart, so I select it, and I can either click copy in the ribbon or Control C. So once you've copied it, you go back to your document, and instead of just clicking on the paste at the top here, you're going to go to the more options, and we're going to select paste special, paste link, and I take Microsoft Excel chart object. When marking this, I will select this image and then obviously see that there's a line around it. Also, if I right click on it, it will bring up the option of updating the link. Basically, any changes that are made to the Excel spreadsheet will automatically be updated in this document as well. Right, so that was pasting it as a link, which is where the 2 marks come from. Locate the table in the first paragraph, edit it to display the data as follows. So they want to see hardware, software, network, video, programming, and admin. They need a big white box there. You'll notice there are thicker borders on the outside and thinner borders on the inside. Let's have a look. Parent, business, and community in that order. Okay, first problem that I see here is that there's a line through these cells. There's a diagonal border. So I would select all 3 of those at the same time, click on table design, the top borders, and I want to get rid of that strike through border. And I can do that by selecting it and deselecting it again, and you can see it's now been removed. Next problem, if I look specifically at the example, is a hardware, software, network, video, and programming and admin need to be displayed sideways. Select those ones there. Go to layout, and I'm going to go to text direction and make them go sideways. Great. So that's the second thing that needed doing. Next thing that needed doing was there's no shading on the data inside of this table. Select those. It's a design problem, so you go to table design, shading, and you set it to white. I don't remember there being a totals column. No, there wasn't. Select this row, right click, delete cells, and I'm going to delete the entire row. Do we already have different inside and outside borders? Yes, we do. 313, 324, the data is the same. Programming, video, network, software, and hardware. I think, oh, they say the height of the top row must be 1 centimeter. It's a little bit much here. Select somewhere in that cell, go to the layout tab. There you can see the height is currently 2 centimeters, and so I will either type in or use the spinner to make that 1 centimeter. That's looking good. Right, locate the word art at the top of the second page. Remove the transform effect so that the word art displays as follows there. There it is. Right, questionnaire looking all wonky. Select it. Go to your shape format. I'm going to go to text effects, transform, and I'm going to say none. And it gets rid of that transform effect on the text. The next section asks me to change the form fields. I would like to take part, so set the default value of this to checked. Currently it's not. So you right click on that, go to properties, my default value, checked. Great. So that's 1 mark in the bag there. Set the help text for the field under cluster. So if the user presses the F1 key to do the following, group name. Select that field, click on properties, and I'm going to say add help text under F1. So if they push the F1 key, and I'm going to type the text. What was it again? Group name. And I click OK. And so if I had to push the F1 key on that one, it would then display that for me. Goodness. Right. Next thing is to preferred date field. Ensure that if the user enters a date in this field, the date will display in the following format. In other words, they want day in full, then the date, October, the month, and the year in full. So right click on it, properties, date format, and it's going to be DDDD, comma, DD, month in full, YY. So that's the format that I want of the date field there. Do not restrict editing on the form. Okay, so we're not going to actually go to the developer tab and restrict the editing on this, because obviously it will make it slightly problematic for whoever's marking it. Right, perform a mail merge using the current document as follows. Use the 5 supporters spreadsheet as the source data. Locate the placeholder, supporter and year's experience highlighted in green near the top of the document. Replace the placeholders with a merge field and save the document once you've merged it as 5 thanks. Oh no, they want us to save the 5 thanks document with the merge fields and then save the merged field or the merged document as 5 merge. And let's have a whirl. Okay. So they say this is based on the 5 supporter spreadsheet. First things first, as I've mentioned before, is always go and check where you're merging from. So I would open it up. First thing that I notice here, which is very important to note, is that the first section here contains the headers. It's important to note. Then it's got the data underneath, and good. I'm happy with that. So I'll go back to my document and I click on mailings. Start a mail merge. I'm going to use the letters format. I'm also going to say select recipient list, use an existing list. I will then navigate to my desktop under data and take the 5 supporters spreadsheet. I noticed that in this there's one workbook, one spreadsheet, which is why it's absolutely pivotal to go and check it out first. And other than that, the first row contains the headers. So I say open. In this dialog box, see that checkbox over there? This is why it was so important for me to go and check it out first. I need to select the box that says, yes, the first row of the data that I'm pulling from the spreadsheet does contain the headers. And so now I can take that, click OK, and then I can go and put in those merge fields. So the only 2 merge fields I'm changing according to, sorry about that misclick, according to this is the supporter field and the year's experience that are shaded in green. So I select that one for a start. I'm going to go and insert my merge field, supporter, and under year's experience, I'm going to insert my merge field, year's experience. Save it before you actually run the merge, and then you can go to finish and merge and say edit individual document. And then this one we're saving as 5 merge. Save, and here's my merge document. There's the initial document where I merged from. Save and close. And I do believe that brings us to the end of this paper. Great. Well, I hope this has been of some help to you. Please do reach out if you have any questions, and I won't hesitate to answer. Also, if you would like to, drop a comment in the comment section and I'll try and get to them as quickly as possible. And I hope your exams go well.